So listen, we got Dr. Kevin T. Dyson here, former NFL wide receiver. You were picked 16th.
Yeah.
First round pick, 16th, 1998 NFL draft, man.
Yeah,
this brother right here is from Logan, Utah.
Yeah.
Is that true? Like, you know.
Well, I was born there. My pops played football at Utah State. My mom was going to school there. They had a young kid. He was a freshman. She was a sophomore.
Yeah.
I think that's about right. He was 18, about to be 19. And
Logan, Utah. Well, so what part would you live in?
Well, I didn't live there very long.
You didn't even live there that long.
Once she found I was pregnant, you know, I think I had me a couple months later, moved to Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
So you grew up in Vegas?
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah,
then Utah. So, my mom's from Utah, my dad's from Vegas.
Yeah.
They moved to Vegas. That's where the support system was, and then had 3 more kids after that.
Yeah.
So my mom and my pops had 4 kids by the age of 23, 24.
Yeah.
Then they young, man. You know how that goes. That story goes. They young, fighting, split up. The 2 youngest go ahead with my mom to Utah. The 2 go to stay behind with my dad.
Yeah.
And we were living with my aunt, living with my grandmother. We was house to house. My dad was doing his thing.
Yeah.
Then we finally moved back to Utah full time with my mom, and you know she got it straight. She was by herself, and my grandma used to call her drill sergeant because she had 3 boys and a girl, and we growing up fast.
You the oldest, right?
I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
And she just make sure we were talking off air of being regimented. So my mom was be in bed, you know, get up, you know, and then but that was how she was.
But Utah, man, I'm just like Utah, like I don't meet many brothers from Utah, man. I mean, you know.
You don't. And not of them. Well, when I was coming up, a lot of them weren't from there originally. Like my mom's family's from Missouri.
Okay.
And military brought them there.
Yeah.
But they just all stayed there. Same thing. Now a lot of people are coming out for work, businesses. There was healthcare business was booming a little few years ago. So it brought people from the West Coast, particularly like California and stuff like that, funneling into Utah. But it's not. When I got there, I think Carmelo said something when he got drafted. But when I got there, it was less than 1% black when we moved to Utah.
In the state or
in the whole state?
In the whole state.
In the whole state, less than 1%. Man. I think it's a little bit different now. I think it's grown a little bit, but not much. And 80-something% of the state was Mormon.
Yeah.
As well.
Right.
So you running somebody, pretty much they were gonna be a white Mormon.
Yeah, man.
So imagine that growing up. It's a little different, you know, going to people's houses. And looking different, having different belief systems, all that kind of stuff. It was a different childhood, man, to say the least. But they're good people, man. There's good people everywhere, regardless of what their beliefs are, or what color of skin they are. But it was different, and it's hard to explain until you get to experience it.
Man, so growing up in Utah was definitely different. You know, you said your parents were brought there from the military.
My mother's parents were there for military.
Okay,
Her dad, I believe her dad got there. He passed away before I was born, but I believe he got there because of military, Hill Air Force Base.
Yeah. So, Kevin, I was doing some research, of course, getting ready to talk to you, and your dream was to go to the NBA.
Yeah, I was.
You ended up a first-round draft pick in the NFL.
Well, see, it goes back to having a single mother and seeing her grind, man. And I just went home, and I was like, basketball was my thing. Yeah. I mean, if I wasn't playing another sport, I was playing basketball, and sometimes I'll be playing basketball in the middle of playing another sport. Basketball was my first love, man. And I went home and I told her, I said, I'm going pro and I'm gonna buy you a house. That was to me was the ultimate dream, just to have a house that was ours. You know what I mean? We were going from apartment to apartment. Finally, I think midway through junior high, she got a house. I don't even think it was ours. I think she was renting it, but she may tell me different. And we finally had a house. I had my own room finally for the first time. You know what I mean? It was just like little things. But to me, that was a big deal when I was 11, 12 years old. I'm going to buy you a house. I'm going pro. You know, and my mom, she's a realist in a lot of respects. She came home the very next day. And it took me 20-something years to even ask where this came from. But she came home and she had a printed copy of the newspaper or something. Well, I found out later it was a newspaper. She had a printed copy of just the statistical probability of making it in each of the sports. Yeah. And it was, you know, those numbers were crazy, like 1 in 2 million. Yeah, like 1 in a million, 1 in 2 million. Like it had like the percentages, and you know, she put that on the refrigerator. Yeah. And you know, those school magnet refrigerator
with the letters.
Yeah. She put it up there, and you know, I look back on it now. That wasn't necessarily to discourage me. It was just to let me know there's steps along the way, and there's things that's important that you got to take care of. You can't just skip steps. You know, and I tried her, you know, she had one rule: you had to have a 3.0 or better, a B average to play sports.
Wow.
And I tried her that winter.
Yeah.
I didn't. I came home with like a 1 point something, and she took basketball away.
It was over with.
Yeah, and I begged, cried before Christmas break was over, and she was like, "No, I'm not raising no dummies. You're gonna get good grades. You're gonna do what you're supposed to." And you know, I didn't understand it then because I was like, "Mom, I told you I'm going pro basketball. That's all I need to do. I'm gonna buy you a house. I gotta, you know, that was my focus." And you know, now being grown and having my own kids, I can understand why that was important. And it's a valuable lesson. I'm the oldest as well, so she let me go ahead and not do my best, especially academically, which I can admit now I didn't do my best. I did just enough to make sure I had my 3.0. Yeah. If she let me fail or falter, I got 2 brothers and a sister right behind me. Yeah. And so that was important for her because I had to lead the way for them. Yep. And so it was a valuable lesson, and it's something that I've carried on for 30 years since, you know, 30-something years since. So it was a much needed life lesson I had to show me what was important. You can't skip steps. You know, you can't get from A to Z without seeing B, C, D, and F. You have to do it. You got to go through the right steps.
So how'd you get into sports? Like growing up in Utah, you know, going to Vegas, coming back. Like how'd you even get into sports at all?
My whole family in Vegas is athletes.
Yeah.
The whole family. My uncle, who was like my hero, he's 5 years older than me. I used to follow behind him everywhere he went. Yeah. Like I look back on, he probably was like, man, this kid don't stop following me. Like, but he would let me go play with him and his boys. Yeah. And he'd tell me, if you're gonna come, you're gonna play, and you better not cry. Yeah. He would tell them, don't take it easy on them either. You know, of course they did. You know, but there was stuff like that, and I just saw it. My dad was an athlete. My uncles, my aunts. This is on my dad's side. They were all athletes. Even on my mom's side, her niece was big into track. Yeah. But my mom wasn't necessarily the athletic type. She liked sports, but she wasn't like the athletic type. But growing up, seeing all my uncles, my Uncle Mike, he played with Freddie Banks in Vegas. And we'd go watch him play. Y'all probably don't know who Freddie Banks is, but back in Vegas, Freddie Banks was a folk hero. He went on to play for UNLV and Jerry Tarkanian. I grew up watching all them. Yeah. And so, going to see him play, seeing the gym being packed just to watch this man play. Yeah, it was just in me, man. It's just part of my DNA. Yeah.
Yeah, your brother, we'll talk about him, Andre. Mm-hmm. He played football. He was a multi-sport athlete. Yeah. I'm gonna ask you about it. Like you're a wide receiver, he a DB. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure y'all probably was going at it. But when you think about your playing days, you played at what was your high school? Clearfield High School. Yeah. Y'all ended up winning the state championship. What was that? 1992. 92 state championship. Yeah. Were you playing receiver or were you playing DB? Because I saw you were a DB at one point.
Yeah, no, I was recruited as a DB.
Really?
Yeah, even at Utah, I played both my freshman year. Everywhere recruited me for corner or free safety. Yeah. Yeah, Arizona State wanted me to play corner. Utah, corner and free safety. Yeah. Kansas State corner, Hawaii free safety. So I was receiver. Just kind of happened. I was, I played ball in the early '90s, man. Yeah. We was double wing.
Yeah, double wing.
Yeah, wow. Tight end. Only time I flexed out was when it was third and forever, and they said go get it. It was it. But I mean, my senior year, I had six interceptions and 10 catches. I had just many interceptions. I did catches.
Ain't too many passes in that double wing.
No, I was lucky to get one a game, if that. Yeah. I had like 10 catches, almost 400 yards. So it wasn't like, I was going deep pretty much, and then if I caught a curl and they couldn't get their hands on me, so it was a little bit different. But offense, I had to learn how to play receiver when I got to Utah. Fred Graves was my receivers coach. He's the one who recruited me at the University of Utah. And him and the D coordinator, they fought over me for my freshman year, and I guess he won because they ended up making me a receiver.
Wow. So that wasn't even part of the plan to play wide receiver.
Nah, man, I had to learn how to play receiver, and but I've always had one thing about me that going for me was work ethic. So I knew how to work, and I wanted to be. I didn't want to be the weakest link. Yeah. And again, being from Utah, going to school, I knew there was gonna be that. Like a black kid from Utah. So that always kind of stuck with me too. Yeah. So I felt like I always had to prove myself. And just working. Like when I was coaching, I tell kids, it ain't the work that we see that makes the difference. The work that we don't see that makes the difference. So people didn't know, I was going up to local high schools and running routes and working out, doing stuff to better myself, and I started that at a young age, just the work behind the scenes, trying to get better. But it started because of basketball. But when I got a scholarship for football, I started doing that with football too. Yeah. But it just became something I always did, even when I went to the pros, just like working in silence, if you will. You know.
Yeah, man, dude. So, you know, you told me your family is pretty much your family in Vegas were all athletes.
Yeah.
Who did you model your game after, or was it like a player that you wanted to be like?
Yeah.
Especially since you were playing DB, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be Dion or prime time?
Well,
or
in
like,
high school, Ronnie Lott.
Ronnie Lott.
I love Ronnie Lott.
Headhunter.
Yeah, it was because I played free safety mostly, and then and my favorite corners, because I grew up a Cowboys fan, so I used to love Everson Walls and all that. Yeah, so that was my squad back in the day. So anything Cowboys, Drew Pearson, Tony Hill. I mean, that was my squad. But when it came down, when push came to shove, who I tried to emulate when growing through being a receiver was Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice.
I had
Why
tapes.
not? Hey, that's
I had one-on-one tapes. I had drills. I mean everything. I mean, I figured he's the greatest to ever do it. I gotta watch him. And you know, people would get mad when I was playing ball, when I was playing in the NFL. And I remember dudes had this conversation. We had this argument of Kobe and Mike. Yeah, he just copying Mike. And I used to think, why wouldn't you copy the best ever? Like if I want to learn about what go to see E.F. Hutton or you know what I'm saying? Like you go and emulate what people have already done. Yeah. And you try to mold into your own skill set and your own game. And they just always fascinated. People get mad at him for being the closest as far as body movement to Michael Jordan. Like he grew up watching Mike like everybody else. He just
wanted to be Mike. I want to be Mike.
He was just able to take it and process it and put it into his own game and became comparable to Mike. And I think that's what people didn't like. So all that to say, I've heard these kind of arguments, but success to me, you have to take bits and pieces from people, like from their story, and you try to emulate it to make it into your story. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And I think we get caught up sometimes on copycat and all that, but that's the world. The world is built on copycatism. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the NFL is nothing but copycat. Yeah. I watch a film of 4 or 5 games prior to when I'm about to play you, and I see something to work against you. How can I put that in my playbook to play against you, to use that against you? Yeah. It's the same thing. It's the world of copycats, and that's how we learn. Like if I want to learn how to invest, well, let me go talk to somebody that's having some great success investing. You know what I mean? Because I want to emulate what you do, and people are profiting off of that kind of stuff. So all that to say, man, I used to love Jerry Rice, and when I got the chance to meet him and I talked to him, I just wanted to pick his brain and learn anything I could.
Did you ever talk to him?
I did. I've been to his house.
Yeah, you've been to the crib.
I've been to his house. Yeah. This is when he was still married at the time, and his wife was really ill. Yeah. And I was out there training. I used a similar trainer that he had, and went over his house, man, just got to pick his brain, talk to him.
What was that like, talking to a true, like,
man, you know, without getting spiritual, man, it was like talking to your God, like, that's Jerry Rice. Yeah. You know,
At his house.
I met him and Michael Jordan.
Drinking his Kanye, probably.
Right. You know, I met him and Michael Jordan, and that was it. I was good. I met my two heroes, man. That was like, I'm good now. But it was, man, I didn't get enough time because I wanted to be respectful because his wife was homesick and everything. So I didn't get to really spend the time, because I could have spent all day with him, just picking his brain. And I have since, I was with him in Chicago last year at a golf scramble, and I talked to him a little bit and just talking to him because it's Jerry Rice. And it was fun, man. It was fun. But it motivated me to go back in. And that was right after that year of the Music Miracle. I went out to California and was training. And that's when I got to meet him. Yeah. And it was crazy. He knew who I was. I was like,
he knew who you were.
I'm my second year in the league, and I was like, no, he don't know who I am, but he did. He knew who I was.
He knew exactly who you were.
Yeah.
Just like the rest of us.
Yeah, he does. You know, because as I did too, when I got older, you start watching the young guys who's trying to take the throne, if you will.
I see.
You know, you watching young talent come in and out. You watch college ball. You got an idea. People talk about guys before they get to the league anyway, so you pay attention. So at that time, I didn't see it like that, but I was like, oh, how's Jerry Rice know who I am? But, you know, he's like everybody else, student of the game, he pays attention.
Yeah, man. So I want to go back to your upbringing. You know, a lot of times with athletes, especially black male athletes, there's the story like you grew up in a single parent home, and, you know, it's a common story. But that's not the whole story,
right.
Kevin. You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a single parent family. I'm the second of 5 kids, you know, so we have a similar background. But I knew it was more than just that. That wasn't the whole story. What is missing from that story to you? You know what I'm saying? What are the TV stations and the ESPNs not picking up? Because they love to glorify that. Like, came from a broken home. Dad was doing this. Mom was like, what's the other side of that story?
Well, I think part of it is, how to say this, the support system that you may or may not have outside your home. Yeah. I think a vast majority of people that may have some adverse circumstances in their life have some sort of support system outside of their home, whether it be a coach, I don't even want to use the word handler, but people like that make sure they keep you in check, keep in line. Yeah. Now, for me, my mom was a pretty strong, pretty bullhead. She had a vision. She had went to school, had to drop out of school because she had a kid, you know, and then went back later on in life. But so to her, education was very important. But I also had people that helped pay for me to go to AAU, helped pay for me to go to this camp, you know, things of that nature, because we couldn't afford it. Yep. So if I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't had some support outside of all that, because I believe some of those AAU tournaments and things that I was going to helped me from an athletic standpoint, because I was still playing. I was playing competitively. I was going and playing against Jerry Stackhouse and all these dudes in AAU tournaments and stuff like that, even though they become phenomenal basketball players and I ended up being a football player, but that honed in some of my athleticism and I look at it. So it was people like Kelvin Davis and Coach Greenfield and all these gentlemen who, you know, in the Stouffer family, people like that who paid for me to go to AAU basketball or go to this competitive soccer tournament because they wanted me there. And they thought I needed there. I knew my mom couldn't afford me to go, so they let me stay with them. They take me, they feed me, and all this stuff along the way. So we lose sight of support, the community aspect of it, you know. And these were white folks helping me, a lot of them. You know, Kelvin was black, but a lot of other people were white folks helping me. Saw a single mother, you know, and it's helping her, you know, and helping me, and help my brothers, help my sister, you know. So we lose sight of that. You know, the home is a piece, and that's a big piece, that's a valuable piece. But it was outside the home, that community that I had, people seeing something in me, was willing to invest in that for me. And, you know, thank people over the years, you know, 30 some odd years later, but, you know, there's only so much. You don't realize at the time how valuable that is. And you get older and you see it, you're like, okay, that was cool. Because without them, I would have just been at home chilling. Yeah, really.
Man, did you hear Coach Prime when he was talking about, like, a certain type of household he wants his quarterbacks to come from? He wanted his defensive linemen to come from a certain type of household.
Yeah, I just saw that.
I don't want to get too far into that, but what are your thoughts about that?
You know, I think there's a stereotype that comes with all of that, and I don't know if there's data to support
what he's
talking about. Because
it's all empirical. He's going by what he saw.
He's going by what he saw. I don't know if there's some data, but I bet you there might be some truth to it if you look at the numbers and who has been successful. And I think a lot of it comes to mentor or parental or elder involvement for anybody in how the success rate will be. Because if you see some of the gentlemen or ladies who have struggled, whether it be from a domestic type of situation, drug type situation, a lot of them didn't have that support system, regardless if it was 2-parent home or single parent home, or they didn't have a mentor that was guiding them through all that and making sure. We can talk about Jalen over there at Philly. Dad was highly instrumental in his life, right? Again, different from the narrative that we've all had from single parent homes, but the mom was the patriarch of the house, you know. And so I could see what Dion is saying based on his experience, and from him playing to even now coaching and having that diagram or numbers as far as who he wants to be in each position. I saw it. I can't remember right now as we talk about it, but I know he said he wanted his quarterback to come from a two-parent home.
Defensive lineman, single mom
home, because they're hungry.
They some dogs.
We
gotta eat, gotta feed my family, gotta buy my mama a house.
Yep.
Two-parent home situation, the kid, the mentality. I don't need
calmer,
to do all that.
I'm a little calmer, thinking through some things. I don't know if there's truth to that
I don't
statement.
either. I mean, I'm from a single parent home, so I don't know.
Me too, and I like to think I can think through some things too now. So you know, but everybody. I mean, again, there are always those that you know you've done data search before, and you know data can be skewed any way you want
whatever story you want to tell, you can find some data to fit it.
Support it. Yep.
Yeah. So look, man, you graduated high school in '93. Mm-hmm. You ended up going to the University of Utah. When you were coming out of high school, you mentioned some teams were looking at you. Yeah. Who all were looking at you?
I had several: Hawaii, Kansas State, Utah State, BYU, Arizona State, Weber State, Idaho State. You know, all the schools on the West Coast, Boise.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I ended up choosing Utah over Arizona State. So I went to Utah first before I went to Arizona State. And they offered me right there in the spot, but I wanted to take all my trips. So I took my remaining trips, my last one being Arizona State.
Yep.
And I went to Arizona State, and I didn't get the offer right then and there like I had at all the other spots.
Yeah.
And they basically said, you know, we got to see something, but we like you, we want you here. Well, in my mind, especially coming from a kid who needed the scholarship, I needed the money. In retrospect, and I'm thinking, well, I'm coming from Utah. They're gonna offer the kid from Cali, and if he don't take it, then come to the kid from Utah. That's how I took it. Mm-hmm. And so I went home committed to Utah. Yeah. And a couple of days later, this is before social media, so I have no idea how they found out. But a couple of days later, I get a call from Coach Snow, Coach Schneider, the defense coordinator and head coach of Arizona State. They said, "Why'd you do that?" Yeah. I said, "We got a scholarship for it." I said, "Well," and they said, "Did you think we didn't have one for you?" Because we didn't. I said, "Yeah, man. I'm not gonna be without waiting on y'all in Utah." They've been waiting on me for a month.
Ready to go.
And they want me to commit right there. And they told me I was their number one recruit from the jump. Yeah. And they still kept that scholarship waiting on me. And then you telling me maybe or hold on. I was like, man, I had to. And it was Pac-10. It was warm weather. You know, I'm originally from the desert. So it was back into the desert. I didn't ski, you know, so I wanted to go to Arizona State. So I committed to Arizona State as well. Well, at that time, my mom was like, "You got to call Utah." My mom was trying to raise a young man. She's like, "You made a decision like a young man. You need to be a young man and go tell these men why you changing your mind." So she made me. They asked me to come up to the University of Utah. She made me go up there, and we walk into their football facilities, the Rice Echoes football facilities, and the Chicago Bulls are in there working out. They played the Jazz later that night. Yeah. Everybody's in there but Mike. Yeah. Of course, you see that. But Mike. There's Horace Grant, Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc, all them are in there. And Kukoc was in there. That was Horace Grant. That was '93. So of course everybody's in there but Mike. And then I go up there and I talk to Mr. Coleman, who's a faculty advisor, who was an alumni of Utah, played football, the first black athlete to go to the University of Utah. Talk to him, talk to the head coach, talk to Fred Graves, who recruited me from Ron McBride's head coach. And I'm leaving there, my head spinning. I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm not even 18 yet. I don't know what to do, you know. And they tell me, we committed to you from the jump. Once you told us you're coming, we told someone else we're not coming. You know, the whole stuff they spin. And I know business is business now. I know that's not entirely all the case, but there's some truth to it. Yep. And this is how old I am. But at that time, they would FedEx you or mail you your commitment letters, and you signed it, and you either faxed it back, or then you also made a copy or whatever you sent.
Yeah, you telling me, hey, they don't know about no fax.
Come on, man.
You like, what is that? What's a fax? Yeah.
And I woke up that morning, February 1992 or '93, signing day, and I had both papers, man. I didn't know what to do, and ultimately you know what? I committed to this place first. I stuck with my word. Yeah. And I went to Utah and I committed to them. I called and said, I'm coming. And I had both papers sitting on there that morning, man. I didn't know what I was going to do. That night I didn't sleep. So then, first game of my freshman year, we go to Arizona State. Yeah.
You gonna talk about the catch?
No, I wasn't. Not yet. That was later, but it was my first game, first time suiting up. 80,000 people.
80,000.
We're at Arizona State.
80,000.
They moved me receiver. The coach came to me. He's like, "They moved you receiver, man. You'd be an All-American corner." Blah blah blah. I said, "Yeah." We lost 38-0 to Arizona State. I said, "Golly, did I make the right choice?" Right. And then not only that, because I knew it, because I probably would have been starting at corner. They had this other guy starting, that ended up going to the league the next year. Jake Plummer, I don't know if y'all remember him, who was on my recruiting trip with me to Arizona State. ended up coming in and taking them to the Rose Bowl that year. And man, it was just, like, oh, did I make the right move? But it worked out for me, I guess. It worked out. But yeah, that was a hard little time frame for me.
Man. What was it like being a student athlete?
You know, I think it's like anything else. You got to learn it. You know, you got to learn that process as that balance in life. Like I told you, I didn't know how to prioritize my academics. I know now. I'm a better student now that I'm older. I appreciate learning, which I didn't when I was young, because to me, there was always another step for sport. You know, I got the scholarship. Now I need to go to the pros so I can get this house. This in the middle, these steps in the middle, I had to do so I'm eligible to play. And again, a lot of people don't know this about me. I almost didn't play my junior year. Because I had to take like dang near 30 credits in a
30 credits?
Yeah, because I failed like first semester. I didn't do jack. So I had to take 20-something credits that second semester plus summer school to even be eligible to play my junior year, which put me on the map. So and that year was pivotal for me, and it's just because I didn't have enough credits, I wasn't gonna be able to play. So I can't remember. I think I took 22 or 24
in
credits.
One semester. 24 credits.
Yeah, in one semester.
That's a lot.
I had to. Now, granted, some of those, some of it was like dance. I mean, that was what it was. But you know what's crazy is I had my best GPA ever. I had a 3.7, made the dean's list. When I had 22 credits to take. And then I think I took six in the summer. So they get 30 credits.
How'd you stay focused, man, and do all that? What was it?
One, I had a kid.
You want to get to the house? You had your kid?
I had a kid too. I had a kid, and then he told me he might not be eligible to play. And I said, what? You know, I'm sitting here, I'm playing now. I'm playing games with my life at that point. Like, what am I doing? I'm losing focus, and it became a priority. And then I started thinking, as I'm working through, I'm actually staying home instead of going out. Now I got a kid too, and I'm sitting there thinking like, man, if it doesn't work out, I don't want to be a dummy. What am I going to do? I'll be getting this education without an education. I'm in here cheating on tests. I'm in here passing up, not showing up to class, whatever. And I'm gonna leave this place with a degree, maybe, without an education. Let me stop. I get, you know what I mean? And that just hit me. Whatever reason around that time, it just hit me that I'm wasting an opportunity. And from that on, I got real focused in.
You graduated with a sociology degree?
I did. I graduated in 4 years. I redshirted, so I had one more year to play. So I started working on another, which go look at it, and this kind of was my trajectory anyway. But I started working on another major, and I would have finished it, except for I stopped going to school that second semester to focus on getting ready for the draft, because everybody's telling me I could be a first round pick. So, or else, because I was just going to continue to go to school because they were going to pay for it, and I was just going to continue to go to school and get that second master's or second degree, and second major degree. But my agent was like, "No,
we going to the league.
Just focus in on this, get in shape. Come to California." I went to Cali and worked out.
So as we were talking before we started, I used to work in the counseling center and at Tennessee State, and my job was to work with the athletes. And so there's a special need for that, right? When you were a student athlete playing for the youths, like, were there ever any mental health challenges that you faced and had to overcome?
Yeah, man, I think I alluded to it just a little bit, but you know, for me, I've always never felt good enough. I always felt like I had to prove myself, you know, not the fast track, even being drafted before Randy Moss. I always felt like it was a part of me that suffered in silence because I never felt like I lived up to whatever potential. I always felt like I had something to prove. So I always like that. Then I'm the only black kid on a lot of the teams. Because when we moved to Utah, it wasn't a whole lot of black. I wasn't the only one, but a lot of times the majority of my team would be white gentlemen.
1% black in the whole state. You're going to be one of the only.
Exactly.
A lot.
And so it was a lot of that. I remember one of my former teammates, he said something. He tried to joke, but there's always truth in some jokes, right? He's like, you know, you only got the scholarship because you're black, right? You know, and I knew it kind of hurt them in the sense that I was getting all the attention. Well, lo and behold, I've told this to other kids before, you know, for me, I want to get that last laugh. I'm not gonna show you just because I'm the black kid, because I'm the best player,
right?
You know, so to speak. And you know, looking back on it now, I'm an adult. I know where that was coming from. Maybe some of it was jealousy, some of it I don't know, but I'd understand because I was a grain of pepper in a bowl of salt. You know what I mean? And so I stuck out like a sore thumb. Not only was I the most athletic and things of that nature, it was like I did stick out. And so that was probably hard for everybody else because I was getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, a lot of times I joke, but a lot of times, man, as an athlete, black male, suffering in silence.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I know my mom is struggling, I'm struggling,
yeah.
But you can't say nothing, you know.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest, I gotta make sure my little brothers and sisters are fed and gone and doing what they need to do. And, you know, I just learned how to be quiet and keep moving.
So you didn't talk to anybody about this feeling of not being good enough or the imposter syndrome or none of that? You just rolled with it?
I just really, man, the last couple of years even recognize that stuff about myself.
Yeah.
You know, just keep chasing all these different things to finally feel warranted. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Got all these degrees and everything. Some of that is circumstantial too, man. Being a black man in America, feeling like you have to do way more than everybody else anyway. Some of that's that, but some of that's just me always feeling like I have to do more to get less in everything, you know? Yeah. And that's just part of who I am. And some of it, I'd say that because we're talking about it, it's not even a bad thing in a lot of respects because it has kept me driven. It's kept me moving towards my goals and not giving up in a lot of respects because I want to prove a lot of people wrong, whether it be myself sometimes, you know?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, it's like try to prove to yourself versus trying to prove another person wrong. Yeah. Like try to prove to you that I am worthy. Yep. I am a valuable person, right? Because a lot of times we try to prove something to other people. So you're motivated by external factors. Yeah. You're being motivated by the noise. Yeah. But I think it's important to tap in and be like try to prove to yourself, like, I knew I could do this. So what would you tell to a college athlete that's dealing with that now? Because, you know, times have changed a little bit. Now it's more okay to reach out for some help. You know what I'm saying? In fact, it's like if you need some help, say something. Say something. What would you tell to a young athlete?
Man, because like you said, it's a little more open. I think even for myself, seeing it even made me take inventory and recognize some things about myself, even about growing up, that I at the time was just taking it as well as just what it is. I just deal with it and keep moving. So even as a old head, I can recognize that about myself and see that it's okay for a kid, young man or young lady to have these conversations. So for me, as I would tell a young cat, it's okay to have that conversation and pull somebody along with you. Yeah. You know, recently we talked about Jamar Hamlin and the Buffalo Bills and what's going on, his struggles. And that opened up some conversations. Get text message, man, just brothers tell me, I love you, because you just don't know when your number's called, right? You know, we all got a punch ticket sometime or another, and then we see how fast life is at that instant. This is a 22-something-year-old kid whose life almost ended right there in the football field. And so all that to say, we all have these similar struggles, and we didn't even know it. I recently did a podcast with Zach Peeler. He was on our show, and he was talking about that '99 team that went to the Super Bowl with the Titans and how Javon Curse is the freak. He's got the song, he's breaking records, but like him, he was having all the success, but he was suffering in silence. Him and Zach were having conversations, so they had each other. Zach wasn't playing, and he's watching his friend having all the success, but his friend is talking to him about the pressure of having success, and he's like, I'm not even playing. And so they were, at least they had each other to talk to, but we say that because we just, especially football, it's that gladiator mentality. You just keep going. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, nobody would know Javon was actually having those feelings about the success he was having because it came so fast to him. Where here I am, similarly, I'm on the same team. I'm worried about what another man on the other team is doing because I'm feeling like I got to validate everything I do because I'm thinking people want him instead of me. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And I'm just going to work every day. He's going to work every day. Zach was going to work every day. So it's just all these brothers and people, and I'll say young ladies too, who come into these teams and you compete for each other. But then you go home and you internalize and you evaluate your circumstances and you sit there and you just learn to cope and deal on your own.
Yeah.
And some of us do it better than others. Some of us hide it better than others. Maybe I should say that better.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's that stress that's on you from however long that time period is until you either speak on it or transition to something different.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate thing. Because here I am, I'm 47 years old, be 48 in June, and starting to recognize that about myself as I'm writing a book, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because then it makes you think about some things.
Reflecting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and that's the only thing I got to tell you, man. Just don't go at it alone. Yeah. Just find your partner. And I know a lot of people go to therapists and things like that, but that's one thing. But find your partner that you can. Yeah. You know,
You talked about that support system earlier growing up. You definitely need to have that support system as a college athlete. That was a big part of what I would do with my athletes. I would help them, define or identify their support system. Yeah. What's their name? What's their phone number? And what do you need from this person? This person's gonna listen to me. This person's gonna give me a few dollars when I need something to eat. This person's who I cry to because I'm feeling scared or whatever. So that's a big thing. So let's look. Good. You played 5 seasons, 4-year starter at Utah, right? Mm-hmm. So this is you had 192 catches, 2,726 yards, 18 touchdowns as your college career. When did you know you could play on the next level?
Oh man, after my junior year, I started getting phone calls. Agents asked me if I was coming out early because I was on track to graduate. Basically, I say early. I was redshirted. Yeah. I was on track to graduate, and it was a wide receiver rich draft, and they were telling me I can be second round, third round, maybe fourth round pick. Yeah. And for me that was I said, shoot, I just hope to make a team. I'd be on a practice squad. To me, practice squad at that time was making about $80,000 a year. I was like, that was a lot of money to me. I was like, shoot, I'll take that all day long. So just to have an opportunity, that's it. Just give me an opportunity, I'll make the most of it. That's how I looked at it. And then, but I didn't go. We started back like January, February, whatever it was. The next off season, we started off with off season workouts. Yeah. And I didn't go the first week. Well, everybody thought I was coming out early. What it was is my mom had set up me getting all 4 of my wisdom teeth pulled, so I couldn't run. But I was able to reflect. Do I really want to come out? So everybody thinking I was. But what I was able to reflect on before I went back to workouts was, if they're saying I can be second, third, fourth round pick now, man, that means I can flip this and be first, second, maybe third round to worst if I just work hard this offseason and then have a good senior year. Yeah. So that's ultimately when I felt like, okay, I might have a shot here. Yeah. And then that I worked my tail off, man. But this, again, you talk about suffering in silence. I put so much pressure on that too. Like, I remember once like I told you, I had a kid, had a bad game, right? I think I had a couple drops or something in the game, and it's my daughter's birthday. It's October 11th, 1996, 97. She just turned 2, and her birthday party. I'm in the room soaking, crying by myself, and just like I think I ruined my chances to go to the NFL
because of that game.
Because of that game. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I felt like I wasn't living up to all this hype. I was at that point have rated number 2 or 3 receiver in the country, depending on whose list. Some had me at 1, and I'm thinking I just blew it. Yeah. I blew it all. So it's my daughter's birthday. She's 2, and I'm in the room crying. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thinking about the future. I couldn't let it go. Yeah. And I just kept putting that pressure on, on. And finally, the season went on. I was able to go have a pretty productive year, and went on to Senior Bowl, had another production. Ended up being a first round pick, but man, that was a tough time, man. Yeah. It was, and it was interesting. Like my 2-year-old daughter at that time she was a reminder of the pressure. Yeah. And that's not her fault. Yeah. It was just because she was extra motivation, right? Like, shoot, I gotta go. I gotta feed this little girl. I gotta feed her. Yeah. And here I am, and I'm seeing her little face, and I'm like, shoot, and I just had a bad game, drop balls. And I was like, man, I'm about to.
Well, let's talk about a better game. When you played against Arizona, and you known for like a lot of history making plays. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the catch against Arizona. Was the end of the game?
My freshman year?
Yeah.
Yeah, Desert Storm at that time, they were the number one defense in the country like 2 years in a row. I think they were giving up less than a yard per rush over like a 2-year history. Yeah. Like it was crazy. That's Teddy Bruschi and all them. Wow. They had like that defense was unreal, man. Yeah. But they really couldn't score. But I mean, they were winning games 10-3. I mean, they were they were one of the best defenses, college defenses I ever played against. They were physical, and we had 2 offensive scoring drives of 5 yards and won that game. Wow. And that last one being
2 offensive possessions with 5 yards.
They were total of 10 yards.
And y'all won the game.
And we won the game. We beat them. What was the score? I can't remember the score, but we scored those 2 drives. But they had no offense. They couldn't really score either.
Wow.
And they did score, took the lead. They kicked off, and Cal Beck, another freshman, returned it to the 5. Yeah. Like 2 or 3 plays later, I catch the ball in the corner.
One-hand catch in the end zone corner.
Yeah.
Touchdown.
But again, you talk about motivation because that put me on the map. Yeah. I was a freshman. We had a couple of receivers. One, Curtis Marsh, he went to Jacksonville, I think. Jacksonville or the Steelers. I can't remember which one he started off with. He got drafted, went to play. Another one got opportunity, didn't make it. But so it was some pretty talented receivers I was behind at the time. And but that offseason, I knew I was next man up. Yeah. So, and I knew after having that play, a lot of people were going to have eyes on me. So, of course, true to form, I'm thinking that.
Time to show out.
I got my workouts. Everything became football. Yeah. And, like I said, man, sometimes I look back on that misguided kid, and it worked out for me. Yeah. A lot of respects, I probably needed to do that stuff. Yeah. But my priorities weren't what they needed to be. I should have been learning entrepreneurial stuff. I shouldn't have found the balance to learn all that. I should have been networking at the University of Utah, meeting all these multi-millionaires that are donors of the business. I should have been taking that time instead of saying, I'm going to that alumni this or alumni that. I should have been taking that time to meet these people. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because not that I needed it any more than I do now, but it's just been good to have those connections. Yeah. And I think that's what I would tell young cats, man, is go to those functions, meet people, do interviews, send cards, say hello, I'm hearing
a lot more of that advice to the young cats. So senior year is over, college career is over, you headed to the draft. What was that process like for you?
Oh, man. I'd say it like this. Again, I was always number 2, number 3 receiver rated. Yeah. Some had me at 1. It was me, Randy Moss, or Marcus Nash. Me, Randy Moss, or kid at Florida State. I'm losing track of names right now. I'm getting old. Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
we'll look it up.
Yeah, we're gonna look them up. But it was just Phil Savoy in the Colorado. It was always. But me and Moss seem to always be in that conversation, 1 or 2, and you go through that process. You're working out. You go through. I didn't work out the combine. Neither did he.
You didn't work out at the combine. Yeah.
No, he didn't either. And then we both had our pro days. Our times were very similar.
Yeah, you were running the 4.3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had very similar times. He's a special kid. But so my agent, I had long hair, my braids out. He's like, man, you might want to cut those out. And he's like, why? He's like, because Moss had braids as well. Yeah. And so to separate ourselves, I had to look more clean cut and professional, right? Yeah. Because they're associating the braids, especially at that time, is more acceptable now. Yeah. But at that time, braids was associated with thugs, right? Yeah. And it was just a hairstyle. I had the long hair. And so, and Moss was going through his thing from a social aspect of all the colleges he had been through, some of the issues he had prior to getting to school. And, people don't want to forgive those stories until later on. Like, he's forgiven for all that now, which he should have been back then. And so I became the anti-Moss. Yeah. And so, and with that, I had talent, skilled. Like I said, a lot of our numbers are very comparable from attributes like he's 6'4", I was 6'2". He's 208, I was 202. Like, you know what I mean? And he ran a 4.29, I ran a 4.31. So it was, it was pretty comparable. Yeah. And we get through the process, man, and he keeps dropping. So he was supposed to go 4 or 5 to maybe 8, which was Cowboys. Yeah. I was supposed to go anywhere from 8, which is Cowboys, to where I went 16. Yeah. Well, as a draft goes, you draft one good player in a position, people that need them start moving up to get another one. Right. Well, I know Baltimore thought about getting me. The Giants tried to trade to get me and all this kind of stuff, and it just didn't work out. And so he dropped, I dropped. He dropped, I dropped. So eventually, my style of play fit the Tennessee Oilers at that time. Yeah. I block, I medium route runner, all that kind of stuff. Monster, more a vertical game guy. So Tennessee Oilers, Floyd Reese and Jeff Fisher picked me. Yeah. And then 5 more spots later, 21, I think, Vikings picked Moss. Yeah. So all that to say, through that whole process, it was like I'm always being compared to that man. And he didn't care one way or another than I did. I didn't necessarily care, but I did at the same time because I couldn't do an interview without answering a question of him. Yeah. And in my rookie year, he shows out, and sure enough, every media person come in and ask me, "You want to talk about Moss?" I finally got to the point, and this again, you talk about mental health aspect. This was weighing on me too, but I finally got to the point like, man, I'm not answering no more questions about Randy Moss. You got nothing to ask me, don't come see me until after we play them. Well, as soon as we got done playing them that year, it was like the last game of the season here at Vanderbilt Stadium, and sure enough, everybody comes down. He didn't score a one-handed touchdown over Denard Walker and everything else, and everything did get, what about Randy Moss? I couldn't get away from it. So I had to learn to accept it and embrace it and try to spin it. But I'd be lying now, I can admit to it now, it didn't affect me. Yeah, yeah. So you end up going 16th overall to the Tennessee, Tennessee Oilers at the time. That was the first pick of the city.
Yeah, first pick of the city.
First pick of the city.
You know what I'm saying? Rookie, let's talk about that money. You got that rookie deal. So they say you had a 5-year, $5.8 million rookie deal.
Was it that? I don't think it was that much.
It wasn't that much? How much was it, Kevin?
Let me see. Wait, what was it?
5-year, 5.8.
Was it 5.8? 3.4 was a signing bonus. Yeah. And then my salary, I guess that would make it a 5.8 based on my salary, because I think my last year I made about 800 something for the season. Yeah. Or 600, whatever it was. I remember.
You can get that house you was trying to get mama at this point.
I did get my mama a house. I did.
Whatever it was, you can go get that house.
So I did mine a little bit different. I took because I got a 3.4 signing bonus. I took the 0.4 right there in July. Yeah. And I paid off some bills, the stuff I had, like my agent, things like that. But I didn't get the $3 million until that next off season, which was like March 1. Yeah. And it ended up after taxes being like 2.1. Yeah. And
that's the part that gets you with the taxes. You be looking like, dang, I owe this much? How much?
Yeah, well, come on. And
you don't get that whole 3 point whatever million.
And after I deposited that check, because that's when they still did checks. Yeah. I went to Kiko's, made a copy of it, and I framed that mug. Yeah. And then I was with my mother in Utah, and we took a picture together with it, because I ain't never seen that many zeros in my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, man, this is
mine?
It was crazy. And you look at that picture, I mean, I'm smiling from ear to ear. Yeah. It was, man, I had never seen it. And but it was also, it was humbling and motivating at the same time, because to me, I treated that like that was the last money I was ever going to get. Yeah. Good or bad or indifferent. I look at it now, I wish I'd have done some things differently, especially how the stock market has been. Yeah. But I treated that like the last money I was going to get. In retrospect, it ended up being because I had all the injuries. Yeah. So I didn't get the big bag. That was it. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that. As we were talking on the way up here, a lot of people don't realize, for the vast majority in the field, they don't have Mahomes money. Nah, that's like a small percentage that has that money. The rest of everybody else, you got a budget, or else it's gonna be gone sooner than later. Yeah. You know, and then for me, I was fortunate enough I had that, but I would tell you, there was a time in 2008 when that market went down, I lost 50-something% of my investment portfolio. Yeah. So then it went back up, and it's it's doing its thing, but at the same time, it's still like it ain't what it was, you know. And so you know, I was 30 years old when I was done. Yeah. You know, I'm 47 now. Young. So so you know, it's gotta last, if you will. Yeah. And again, like I said a minute ago, I wish I'd have known some different things to flip that and make that 2.1 bigger and more, start an enterprise, so to speak. But all I knew was save. And my mom, bless her heart, who was in banking, that's all she knew too, right? Yeah. You put it in the bank, you save. You know, pretty much. You know, I put it in the market, but that's what my intention was to save.
Yeah. You know, they say when you get money, it shows who you really are. What did you learn about yourself when you had that bag? Got that bag. You said, I saw them zeros. I'm like this in the picture. What did you learn about yourself when you had that type of resource?
I was the same cat, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I put it all away.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell you this: that next year we went to Super Bowl. That next year I bought all this jewelry. I bought a new Benz. And I called my mom after I got the Benz. Yeah. I said, Ma, I feel like I didn't got everything I ever felt like I ever wanted in life. I got a house, got a car, I got all this. I don't feel any different. I'm done spending money. Yeah. I'm
done spending.
I'm done spending money because I was. Yeah. I mean, it didn't make me feel any different. It didn't make me feel any better about it. It was just, I was, rolling down. Don't get me wrong. It was nice to be able to afford those things, but it didn't empower me in any kind of way. Yeah. You know, and I thought I was like, oh, I got this money. I'm, king, whatever. No, it didn't. Yeah. It really didn't. Yeah. I was just like, dang, I'm done spending. Yeah. You know, so I had everything I ever thought I ever wanted. Yeah. And I'm like, what's the point? Like, you know what I mean? So to me, my priority shifted in the sense of what was important to me. So what was important to me, I wanted to be able to eat where I wanted to eat and travel where I wanted to travel. Yeah. The rest of it, I didn't care. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
that was you. Yeah. You know, the money just brought, that's who you really are.
That's it.
Some people, you already know. They blow through all that money.
They buy a car, the new car to come out and all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I had my fair share of cars, but a lot of them were leased, in which, I learned a lesson on that too. But don't get me wrong, I did my stupid stuff at the same time. Yeah. I was like, man, you get this money, it needs to last. Yeah. So once you get everything you ever feel like you ever wanted that's just frivolous, all the rest of it, you need to figure it out. And for me, like I said, was saving, and I wish I'd have been more versed in how to make my money make money. Yeah. Because then now you're creating that generational wealth. Now you're creating stuff for your kids' that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, look, man, you're going to be our keynote speaker at the 2023 Relate to Athletes Conference.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We were really excited, when we were thinking about who do we want to put up here. We needed someone that could be relatable, someone that the students can be like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand that. And then we needed somebody that could draw, the students in. And you have been a part of numerous most memorable plays in NFL history. I mean, your first year, you come out, you playing with Steve McNair. You're on a team in the huddle with Steve McNair. You playing
was a trip,
Eddie George, Frank Wycheck, Bruce Matthews. You on a team with these guys. What was it like being in the huddle with these guys?
It was crazy. I mean, again, I've always been a humble cat. At least I like to believe I have been. And then I've been watching these cats on TV, so it was like, am I supposed to be here?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because Eddie George, Heisman Trophy winner, Bruce Matthews, Mr. Hall of Fame, Mr. Oiler football. Legends, man.
Steve McNair.
Then Steve McNair. I've been watching him since he was at Alcorn State throwing for 700 yards in a game, doing stupid foolishness stuff like numbers like nobody's been able to do since, right?
Yeah, man.
And just watching them work. Yeah. I tell this story a lot of times. I was here at TSU our rookie year for training camp, and we always had a conditioning test before we started practicing. Yeah. And our conditioning test at that time was 2 300-yard shuttles with 25 yards apart. Yeah. And you could, do 300 yards. You had a minute between, or 5 minutes between each one. Yeah. And there's a certain time you had to make it. Well, I got in the first group, and there's Eddie George. Yeah. Now, I thought I was in great shape. Yeah. Like, I had been training. I get here. Now, one thing I wasn't used to is humidity. This humidity, it was something else. Now I'm used to it, but back then I wasn't. Yeah. And I got right next to Eddie George. Yeah. And I stood with him for a little bit. Yeah. But he was like a machine. Yeah. And, I saw his back a little bit more and more. Yeah. At that first one, I was right there. But that second one, he lapped me.
Yeah, he lapped you.
He lapped me.
Wow.
I tell this story in a lot of respects to this man and how he taught me and how he taught me to prepare. And and one of the things I've always loved about Eddie wanted to win football games. He came to me, and I'll come back to that story. He said, you got to believe you're the best player in this field every day you come out here, and that's how you prepare.
Absolutely.
So I go back to that story and watching him go through that conditioning test, rooting on his teammates, getting in my face. You good? Come on, number one. You can make. Come on.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here like to die. Like I'm telling you, I'm about to die. Like
in that humidity, like
man, I said I can't breathe. But again, I'm the first round pick.
Yeah.
I can't let everybody know I'm about to die. And he taught me that enough is never good enough.
Yeah.
You had to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And to get me wrong, I had a decent rookie year. But that next year, the year we won the Super Bowl that offseason, was one of my best. That's also the year I went and saw Jerry Rice. Like that was one of my best off seasons I ever had. Because I took everything I had learned and processed it and applied that to that off season. Yeah. And that's when I was ready to take off. Yep. And then the next year, injuries and things.
Second
like
season comes.
And we go Super Bowl.
Y'all 13-3.
Yeah.
Y'all end up winning the AFC Central, which is no longer.
Actually, we didn't win it that year.
No, y'all was second.
We were second.
Y'all came in second.
We second to
wild card.
Jacksonville.
Y'all ended up being a wild card, right?
Yeah, Jacksonville was 14-2. We're 13-3.
Yeah, and here comes history coming knocking on your door.
Yeah.
You guys playing
on accident.
On accident.
Yeah.
Y'all playing against Buffalo. Right here at home, I'm a young kid. Like, okay, I'm hype about the Titans. We about to be in the Super Bowl.
I pictured you saying young kid.
You know what I'm saying? It was
back
in the day.
Throw that jab in there.
Hey man, that was a good minute ago, man. That was 98, 99.
Yeah.
So you guys make it to the playoffs. So you're a second year. You starting. You know what I'm saying? You playing opposite of Yancey Thigpen.
Yeah.
Y'all make it to the playoffs. Talk us like, what was it for you, second year player, going into the playoffs? Like you got a chance to win the Super Bowl.
I didn't. I was ignorant in a lot of respects. I didn't know any different, right? Because we had just beat. I'll go after the Mississippi Miracle in the AFC Championship game. We played Jacksonville and we won on the way to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And I remember going to Bruce Matthews like, man, and he was in like year 17. Yeah. And never been there. I'm in year 2.
Already.
I'm 24 years old. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I couldn't wait this long to have this feeling.
Yeah, man.
And he just sat in his locker and I don't remember if he was crying or not, but I can imagine the emotion. He's a man who had sweat and grinded for this franchise for, at that point, 17 years, finally getting over the hump to get an opportunity to go play in the biggest game of all games. Yeah. And so I go back. The Mississippi Miracle, man, like that year, that team, when we moved from Oilers to Titans, moved from Vanderbilt to Adelphia, changed the color schemes on the uniforms, helmets, a whole nine.
It was good times, man.
Right, and it was, you think about the magnitude of that transition. Yeah. Had we gone 3-13. Yeah. This franchise will be talking about finding another city to play. Yeah. Reason being, we built that fan base on that 13-3 season and going to Super Bowl. Absolutely. Because it was still unknown. Absolutely. We still had Cowboys fans here. We still had Steelers fans here. We still had Bengals fans here. That was close around this area, and people were loving the coach just because of Peyton Manning. Yeah. And so for us to come in and do what we did, beat Peyton Manning, by the way, in the playoffs.
Second game after Buffalo,
right? And then beating Jacksonville for the third time, going to Super Bowl, that right there solidified us as Nashville's team. Yeah. And that's why I feel like to this day, a lot of people still resonate with that roster. Yeah. It's because we were sitting in this spot. Had we lost all those games and went 0-10 in Adelphia and all that kind of stuff, the way people waver in their fandom already, it would have been, it just wouldn't have been the same. Truth be told, I don't know if I'd still be living in Tennessee. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I probably would have been back out west. Yeah. But now I understand branding and things of life outside of sport. I'm able to stay here and keep it moving. Yeah. But if that went the other way,
it'd been bad.
It would have been bad, man.
Yeah. So you say you done brought it up several times, the Music City Miracle.
Yeah.
One of the most memorable plays in NFL history. I think I was watching the NFL Network, and that literally is one of the most.
It's number 4, I think.
Number 4 most memorable plays.
Somebody just tagged me in it.
NFL history.
That's the only reason I know that. Somebody tagged me in it like literally a couple of days ago.
And you say it's an accident.
It was an accident.
So y'all go into overtime, right?
No, we didn't overtime.
That was the end of the regular time. Mm-hmm. They kicked. Like, what was it right before that play? Like when y'all called the play, like how did that? Walk us through it, man. How did that whole Music City Miracle take place?
Well, I say that we had been up pretty much the whole game again. So for lack of a better way.
It was cold as hell that day one. I remember it being super cold.
It was cold. Yeah. But, I mean, we were dominating in the sense that they didn't have a whole lot of offense going. Freak had a sack for a safety. They really hadn't done much up until that fourth quarter. And they got a couple scores, and they got that last score with 16 seconds left that put them up. when we pretty much had been in control of the whole game. The only thing we hadn't done is score points either, which speaks well for their defense. They had a really good defense. Yeah. But we had a lot of yards. We just couldn't get in the end zone. Yeah. And so right before or right after they scored, we were, during that time when they scored, we were meeting as an offensive unit talking about what we're about to do when we get the ball back. And at that time, a lot of what we had was what we called our last three. Yeah. So the last three plays, and a lot of them are dictated on circumstances. So your first one, you try to get out of bounds. Yeah. And then this might be the second one might be this towards the middle of the field, whatever. So we were kind of mapping out our last three plays. It's a scripted, we all knew what they were. Yeah. And then that's when Jeff and Al Lowry start calling my name. Yeah. They called me for it. Like only special team I was on was hands team. Yeah. Well, beknownst to me, at that time, I knew Derek Mason was out. Yeah. Because he went out with a concussion. The irony of that is, around that time he was going out with his concussion, got hit. I had gone in to get IV because I was cramping up. I couldn't run. Yeah. So, and it missed, right after he got the ball, he got hit. I was coming out, he was concussed, he was sitting on the sidelines. I just got back from my IVs. Well, the irony of all that is, aside from that, was Derek Mason, no one could return. His backup, Anthony Dorsett Jr., was cramping up, so he couldn't run. So I was dealing with it in the first quarter. That's why they called on me. And because I was like, who else can return kicks? I returned in college. I had done some my rookie year. And so he called me. And so and then they were like, hey, we're going to do home run throwback. And that's when they were trying to tell me stuff schematically.
So that wasn't a play y'all had practiced or anything?
They did. They practiced
it. They practiced
it. So Jeff liked to tell people, Jeff Fisher liked to tell people my response to him was like, Coach, I never run it. Yeah. Well, that's probably true. I probably said, he said, hey, we're going to run throwback. You know, we're going to run. I said, Coach, I never run it. Yeah. Not that I didn't know what it was, but I had never run it. I knew the gist of it. Yeah. I just had never, run it. I seen them do it in practice, whatever, but that was like most of us. We never gonna run that mess. And I had one foot in my car, one foot in out the door. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things. Like we're never gonna do it. So anyway, as we get going, he's trying to tell me, hey, we're gonna do this. They're gonna squib it to Frank. He's gonna run. He's gonna lateral it to Isaac. You get behind him, and he's getting pitch relationship. He gets in trouble. He's gonna pitch it to you. You get what you can't get out of bounds. This is all.
Get out of bounds.
Get out of bounds. That's because we just need a field goal to win. So if you get in trouble, just get out of bounds. We do what we can. Yeah. So we get on the field. Ike's trying to tell me stuff. Frank's trying to tell me something. Blah blah blah. So the ball goes up and it goes to Lorenzo Neal. Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I just learned this over the years of telling this story and actually telling it together with Frank and Lorenzo. I didn't know they had a sidebar conversation where Lorenzo said, hey, I'm going to get this ball. Come get it from me. He ordained it. He knew the ball. For whatever reason, he was coming to him. Wow. And it went to him and it right to him. And people that know Lorenzo love him to death. To me, he's a Hall of Famer. They need to really consider fullbacks and what they do outside of yardage to put them in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer.
He was definitely a dog.
He's blocked for Hall of Famers. Yeah. I'm talking with Daniel Thompson, Eddie George, Corey Dillon, Warwick Dunn, Mike Allstott. He's blocked for all these cats. And they've all had MVP or Pro Bowl type years, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's a travesty. But that's sidebar. But he is not known for his hands. Yeah. He's a football player, neck as big as a garbage can, but that joker cannot catch. Yeah. And he caught that ball true to an athlete, true to a guy that felt the moment and did what he did, gave it to Frank, and then went and blocked somebody. And then the rest, man, Isaac Bird was out of position. I was sitting there, I was like, oh, here comes the ball, step back, caught it.
You run down the sideline. What are you thinking when you realize, like, oh, shit, like, ain't nobody really in front of me but blockers? Like,
truth be told, wasn't a whole lot of thinking to it. After I got the ball, started running, and then the only time I thought about something was a brief moment. I thought, okay, get out of bounds if I get in trouble. Yeah. But then when I saw the kicker go down, I was like, oh, I'm about to score. Yeah. Because they was last one there, so that was it. Once Doug Christie went down, I had a wall of people. Yeah. So I get a lot of credit because I scored a touchdown, which I get because I was the last one with the ball. Yeah. But you look at it.
It's definitely a wall.
Man,
you ran.
I just ran. I had the easiest job. Yeah. I had the easiest job. One thing I could do was run. Yeah. So I just did that. Yeah, man. So I get a lot of credit because I was the last one with the ball in my hands, and so I understand that. But them cats, Greg Favors, Terry Killens, and Perry Phoenix and Lorenzo Neal and all those cats, man, who have been working on that
Yeah.
all year long, having to do it every practice up until that point of 20-something weeks of football. They've been working on that.
Yeah, man.
And then I get the touchdown, and I'm the one that talks about it. But I try to let people know, man, it's bigger than me. I just got the score.
Absolutely.
Them cats, they did the work.
So y'all go on to win that game. Then the next week you guys beat Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah. Then you guys turn around and beat Jacksonville in the championship game. You go into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What's that like for you?
Like I told you, man, I remember after we beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville for the third time that year, and I saw Bruce Matthews in his locker, just hands on his head, just soaking in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard, man. I don't know if y'all ever been there in a moment like that. You just want to live forever, live in that moment forever. You don't want to change. You want to get showered. You just want to enjoy it, right? Yeah. And I think that was where he was with. He just want to enjoy that moment. Well, of course, we get on the plane to head back here, and the airport is packed. That's when people can just go to the airport. You don't have to have a boarding pass. Yeah. We're walking through the airport. It's packed. And it's nuts how many people are just at the airport. So then they put us on the buses and we head straight to the stadium. And there's tens of thousands of people in the stadium, and it's cold outside, but you don't even feel it. And just that energy, man, and just the whole city. We couldn't go nowhere to go to the mall to shop. They had to shut down stores. It was just, there was nothing like that moment, man. And how the city embraced us. Like we were, for lack of a better way to say this, we were rock stars for a few weeks. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And even though the Titans have made runs since then, it hasn't been like that run. It hasn't been like that run because it was the first year, first time in the city, first time in that stadium, first time as Titans, and here we are, here we go. And there's nothing like that run. My biggest gripe with the whole thing is, and I think most players will feel that, is we didn't get a chance to really enjoy that moment because it was AFC Championship game, Super Bowl was the next Sunday. So we literally got home.
Didn't get that
we didn't get that week before
really?
In between.
Wow.
I think that might be the last time.
Next week.
I think that might have been the last times they've done that too.
Yeah.
Usually they give you the week, like a bye week, so to speak. And so we literally get off the plane, go to the stadium, talk to the fans, take us to facilities, get our cars, go home, grab your bags, head back to facilities, and fly out to Atlanta. That's pretty much how it was. So we didn't really get to embrace and enjoy the city, enjoy it, for a week and just feel that energy of people and be like, man, we love y'all, good luck, none of that, right? Yeah. And we weren't alone. The Rams were the same way, but that's one thing that I hate about that moment. But man, there was nothing like it. Man, there's nothing like the Super Bowl. There's nothing like that moment, that run. The Super Bowl is like me and Eddie were walking out to get warmed up a couple hours before the game, as we typically do. Yeah. But usually there's a few people in the stands. There's quiet music playing. You might see some smoke from the grills and all that kind of stuff. But this right here, it was like the energy. It was like game time already. It wasn't but a few thousand folks in there. Yeah. But the energy was just like you thought the game was about to kick off. That's how much the energy was like. You just felt it. And it's hard to keep the emotions in check because you still got the long old pregame stuff. You still got the national anthem. You still got halftime, and keep all that in check and still focus in on the game. Yeah. That's rough, man. It was hard, but there's nothing like it. I don't know what it's like to be in the NBA Finals when you got a best of 7. Right. I don't know. I can only imagine. Yeah. I don't know what it's like playing in the World Cup, but that Super Bowl, there's nothing like it. Yeah, man. At all. It's the greatest game of all games.
Man, y'all on a great run.
Yeah,
y'all
man.
Go from beating Buffalo, beating Peyton Manning, beating Jags at home. Now you in Atlanta in the Super Bowls. Your second year, y'all come up against the greatest show on turf.
Yeah, and pretty much shut them down. I mean, I say shut them down. They put up a lot of yards, but they didn't get a lot of
points.
points.
First half, what was it, 16? They were up 16-0?
16-0.
Yeah.
And truth be told, they probably should have been up like 30-something to 0. Yeah. But our defense had that bend, don't break mentality. Yeah. And they got that one touchdown with Torrey Holt late to put them up 16-0.
And then the next drive, here you go, making history again.
Yeah, then we started making a run, and we got back into the game, and we tied it up at 16. But before that, Blaine Bishop, I believe, got hit and was out. Yeah. And Jeff Fisher pulled us all together, and he said, man, they was over there celebrating. Look at them, they're laughing. Yeah, man. They're celebrating. what y'all gonna do?
Yeah.
And that's when Eddie and Steve said, get on board.
Yeah.
They put us on their back, and we just went to work. And before you know it, was 16-7, and then it was 16-16, or whatever it was, whatever the score went. I can't remember now, and then we got right back in the game, and they gave up that one big play. Yeah. And truth be told,
it was 75 yards.
75 yards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was what Anthony Dorsett Jr. took the angle he took, and Isaac Bruce, one of the best to play, one of the best ever at the time. I think I love watching him play too. And he just made a play. Yeah. And game of inches, right? Because Javon Curse was right there just a half a second earlier. It's a sack. Yeah. You know, and he got the play. But we still had Steve McNair.
Yeah, I had Steve McNair.
We still had Steve McNair.
So I want you to literally walk us through that drive.
Well, I'll say this. I tell people this over 20-something years later. I don't think anybody in the huddle didn't think we was going to go score. Yeah. I just,
what
that's kind of
like?
calm.
Like, what was McNair like in the huddle right there?
Calm. Yeah. Like I said, everybody was calm. There was no sense of urgency. I mean, a sense of urgency, but it was just like, oh, we're familiar to us. We're about to go score. Yeah. And so he just kept making play after play.
He was making amazing plays,
he never got out of character, if you will. Like, he always remained calm. Yeah. He always was a calming presence, and he just had that sense like, we're gonna get this done. Let's go. You know, he. That's one thing I've always appreciated about Mac was his calming demeanor. Like, you know what I mean? Guys could get rattled, and he's gonna find a way. He's gonna find a way to make a play, find a way to help us win. Yeah. That's what you're gonna. And that's exactly what he did. That drive, play after play.
I mean, he was killing it.
He was. He got a big run, then a big throw.
Man.
Then the one right before the last play of the game, we had 300-pounders draped on him, dragging him. Yeah. And he got country strong, stiff armed them both, and got up and threw me a dart. Yeah. I mean, people underestimate that play alone. Yeah. We should have been rushing to get back lined up to spike the ball to have another play. Yeah. But he breaks a tackle of 300-pounders.
Man, that was amazing play.
And gets off and gets a playoff so we can have a chance to win the football game. Yeah. Like, dude, like, he was unreal, his competitive spirit, but he never got too high, never too low, man. Yeah. That's one thing I always appreciate Mac. And if you drop the ball or something, he didn't make you feel bad about it. He just went on to the next play. Yeah, you don't see him dog cussing receivers on film. He looked around and was like, okay, well, let's go. Yeah. That's all I've always appreciated Mac about.
We got 16 seconds left in the Super Bowl.
Was it 16?
I think it was 16 seconds left in the game. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I think we on the 10-yard. You guys on the 10-yard line. Plays called. Your numbers. Was that play to you?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that it was in the progression how the read went. Yeah. So it was a man zone concept. The other side of the field was the man concept. Me and Frank Wycheck were working the zone concept. Yeah. Well, we had run that play against them in October. The similar play, the way they play their concept, they triangle two receivers. So it's 3-on-2, one over top and two on either side of you. Yeah. And so they basically in and out you on this side and have one over the top. Yeah. Well, the idea is the guy on the inside, which is the inside of Frank, his role or his job is to carry Frank to the safety, keeping his eyes on me, the number one receiver, coming in. If I do anything quick, anything drastic come in, he comes off Frank and jumps that route. Yeah. And in the field, I can push up a little deeper, hold, and then come late, so he can carry Frank a little bit longer, make it harder for him to come off. Yeah. Well, since they had the back of the end zone, nobody has to drop as much. Right. He can squat a little bit more. The safety can squat. The corner can squat. And so when that happened, he was able to release a little sooner. And essence of the game, the point in the game, I had to come off. I came off a little faster, and he came off, and he still almost didn't make the play. He just, my momentum brought his legs around. He's able to get his left hand on my left thigh, so I couldn't extend. And sometimes players make plays, man.
1 yard.
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
1 yard short from giving your team a chance.
Because Jeff already said he was going for the tie. We had the momentum. I believe we get overtime, we beat him. Yeah. Yeah.
1 yard.
1 yard.
You know, the question I think a lot of people have, at least I do, is like, how did he deal with that? How do you cope with playing sports your whole life, having a college career, getting drafted, doing all this, getting to the Super Bowl, getting down to the last play, and coming up 1 yard short?
That was the first time in my life I had never been successful. I wasn't successful in a moment like that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about shooting free throws to win game, got the ball in my hand.
Yeah.
You talked about it in college, in the bowl game, Music City Miracle.
Yeah.
That was the first time that I can remember where I wasn't successful in the biggest game of my life.
Yeah.
And it didn't go well. I get stress blisters or canker sores when I get a lot of stress. I do a lot better with it now. Mm-hmm. And I ended up with like 20-something canker sores. Mm-hmm. I went to my dentist, and he would, I forget what it's called, but basically essentially like burn them off.
Wow.
And I'm teared up, like it's painful. The lady who's doing it, she's crying. She felt so sorry. The dentist is like, I had never seen this many stress cankers on a person at one time in my life. Wow. And that's because of that moment. Yeah. Like I went silent for a little while. I alienated myself for a little while. I just got away from football for a little while. I did. Yeah. I went home. I went to Utah. I went to a couple of places, took a couple of vacations. But I didn't want to be around football for a little bit. I feel like I had let everybody down. You know what I mean? After that parade, we had the parade like a couple of days later, or whenever that was, and after that, I just want to be away for a minute. Yeah. A lot of old stuff came up too, like, if Moss had been there, would he have scored? Like all this stuff started coming back, and I don't know where it came from. I just felt like I let everybody down. Maybe it's because because that was the first time I hadn't scored. Yeah. Like I said, even the Music Miracle 3 weeks before, a play I wasn't supposed to be a part of, I scored. So I was like that was the first time. So I just I didn't know how to deal with it. I really didn't. So I beat myself up over it. I blamed myself for it a lot. I don't know if my teammates felt that way or not. I doubt it. I think they get the essence of sports, but for me, I felt like everybody think I let everybody down. So, but you talk about once I snapped out of that, that off season too. That was one of my better off seasons. I was ready to go back. Yeah. I wanted to get back to that moment. I wanted to make amends. I wanted to redeem myself from that moment, man. And then I got injured. So then I'm dealing with that. I got injured that September after the second game of the year. Yeah. Then I got injured. So there was a whole nother set of emotions and everything that comes along with that, man. And now my livelihood is being challenged. Will I ever be able to play again? Because I tore my knee up so bad. Yeah. So it was just like in essence about a 9-month period where I was like, man, what am I doing? Do I really want to play ball? Like I just really was in a dark place, man, for about for a 9-month period, maybe a little bit longer, because I got hurt September of 2000, and then dealing with that up until I finally able to play again. So it's a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
So you left the Titans, went and played with Carolina.
I did,
but you were mostly injured during that season.
And again, yeah. So my 5th year here, a contract year. Season's not going like I want. It's fine, starting to turn around. I get hurt again. Yeah. So now I'm a free agent. People still want me to come play. Yeah. But they want me on the bargain. Mm-hmm. So my agent had the idea of signing like a 1-year deal with somebody, prove you're healthy, prove your worth. Because people were calling. I had 10, 12 teams calling me. Yeah. Prove your worth, and then get back on the market. Yeah. It sounded like a good idea at the time, but now in retrospect, I halfway wish I'd have took the multi-year deal. I had a couple of multi-year deals lined up, and I was like, I'm gonna do the 1-year thing, because then I'm gonna get the big bag instead of taking this minimum small bag. Which, in retrospect, now hindsight being 2020, that little bag is still a lot more than 1% of people make. But I wasn't looking at that. I'm looking at, I'm trying to get that big bag.
You're an athlete. You're a pro athlete. You're trying to get the bag.
That's where here I'm at. That's the dream. The first contract's not the money. Right. The second one is. Contract. That's where guys get the generational money, right? Yeah. And so it made sense to try 1 year. Well, I was coming off a hamstring injury. I got hurt against Baltimore week 11 or week 12 of my contract year. Tore my hamstring off the bone and got it reattached and sutured to the tailbone, and still had people want me to sign. Yeah, wow. And I signed a 1-year deal with Carolina, 1 year, $1 million. Yeah. And my salary was $470, and the signing bonus was $630, or whatever that, right, or $5, whatever the numbers is. Y'all do the math. And so I put that away, and I just lived off my salary, of course. And I didn't live off of it, all of it, but that's essentially what I did.
Yeah.
And I get there, I rehab, I get myself back to the point where I'm competing. And my Achilles is getting sore and like tender. They thought it was just tendonitis for everything I'd been through, from my knee injury to my hamstring.
Yeah.
And we had a mini camp. And my plan was to get through that practice, and then I was going to sit out the next one. Because I had already worked it out with the training staff, the whole nine. Now you're a new guy, you're similar situation.
Yeah.
Either high price, I'm not a high price free agent, even though I wasn't. I had a reputation, everybody knew I could play. I'm coming to a new team. They had just drafted my boy Steve Smith the year before. Musim Muhammad was still there. They just signed Ricky Prohl.
Yeah.
So
I had some
receivers, receivers over there.
Boy.
And they was planning on what they wanted. They was planning on me replacing Musim Muhammad, and me and Steve Smith going as 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I learned that later. But anyway, that practice, I run a seam route, and I felt like somebody kicked me in the back of my leg. I was like, dang. Jared Cooper was the safety. He ran by me, and I thought he kicked me. I said, dang, why'd you kick me? He said, I ain't kick you. I wasn't nowhere near you.
Yeah.
And sure enough, walk off the field, they do the little test, and when we get to the training room, he does a little test. Man, he reached down, and he's like, he didn't even want to tell me.
Yeah.
He was like, Kevin, you tore your Achilles.
Yeah.
I said, no, I didn't, man. I just lost it.
Yeah.
I just lost it, man. My life, I just started crying. Everybody was still at practice. I lost it. He was like, man, I'm so sorry. He couldn't believe it. And then, of course, it was on the NFL ticker later on. And then Eddie called me, Steve called me, Derek Mason called me. All these Titans, like they just, Mike Heimerdinger called. The offensive coordinator of the Titans at the time. They all called me, man, just tell me, like, I'm so sorry. Like, people know how hard I worked, and I was trying to finally getting around, and I just couldn't catch a break. It was just injury after injury. And, man, you talking about deep depression. I can admit it now, probably because I didn't realize I was back then. Yeah. I'm already a naturally introvert. So, even going back around the locker room, I didn't say much. I sat distant, just rehabbed and watched from afar, just waiting on my opportunity to get back on the field. And I came back that next October. I played in a couple of games, but at that time, Steve was establishing himself, becoming a Hall of Famer that he became, because at that time, he probably was going to be more either my backup or me, him start, or whatever. And then he started becoming the Hall of Famer he's now become. Musim Muhammad was having a great year. Ricky Prohl had a great niche where he was doing. They already had their rotation. Here I am coming back, probably the most talented of all of them at that time. Yeah. And what are you gonna do? They already got their thing going. They're winning. We're rolling. Yep. So it's hard to get in at that point. Yeah. And I just got in when I fit in, played a couple of games, played in the Super Bowl with them, and then hit the market again.
Ended up in San Diego.
I went to San Diego, and then same thing, got there, Marshall was like, man, you're so talented, but we just drafted this guy and this guy and this guy. And he said, well, we're going to let you go.
Then you went to Washington.
Did the same thing. Yeah. He said, you had one of our best training camps, one of our most talented receivers, but we just drafted Taylor Jacobs. We just signed James Thrash. We just signed David Patton and Santana Moss. Yeah. I just know we're going to keep 6 receivers, and because they just gave them the money. I wouldn't cost you anything, so you invested in them. Yeah. So they let me go. So it wasn't, I never got released saying that and I didn't feel like it either. Like, I didn't feel like anybody was capping and saying like, oh, you got talent. I felt like it was, they were telling me the truth, like, hey, you're super talented. Yeah. We just don't have a spot for you here, and it was more or less that. So it wasn't that I couldn't play. Yeah. It was all these injuries, the money, that sort of thing became, the business side of it became the reason why I didn't extend my career beyond that.
You ended up playing 6 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, your stats, which is kind of, it's ironic that your NFL stats are close to your college stats. Mm-hmm. So you had, 6 seasons, 178 catches, 2,325 yards, 18 touchdowns.
That's right. Yeah, they almost mirror each
other. They almost mirror each other. 59 NFL games. I don't know how many you played in college.
In college, I'd be curious to know that too, because I never done the math on that. Yeah, out of my 6 years, I think I played 2 full seasons.
2 full seasons?
2 full seasons, because my rookie year I didn't play a full season. My second year full. And then my fourth year full.
Yeah, fourth year with the Titans, you played a full season.
And then I was hurt all in those years in between.
Yeah. How would you define your career?
Man, that's a tough one, because, You know, I've dealt with a lot about it and have come to peace with a lot of it. I don't want to say disappointment. I feel like I left a lot of meat on the bone. I don't feel like I got to reach my full potential. I feel like, again, I keep chasing that validation in a lot of respects, even after I retired. So, you know, for me, that's a hard question to say because I don't feel like I ever got to my full potential. Every time I feel like I was heading the right direction, I had this injury, and then I had to overcome that, and then I had this injury, and then I'd overcome that, and I got this. And it's just so I never felt like I truly got to where I was destined to be for whatever reason. And so that's a hard question for me to answer, just because of I just never felt like I validated my draft status. Never felt that I validated my talent, if I will. I felt like I was super talented, but I never got to reach my full potential.
Man, how do you reconcile that, Kevin? Like you feeling like you didn't get to reach your full potential? How are you able to deal with that?
Shoot, man. One, I think for a lot of years I suffered in silence. I think a lot of years I just dealt with it internally and just you know, just process it on my own.
Yeah.
I'd see like Titans, for instance, would post something like "Happy birthday, the number 16th pick," and I didn't draft it. Then I'd read comments and it'd be like, "You should have drafted Randy Moss." You know what I mean? And then that tears me up. You know what I'm saying? So how do I deal with it now, though? I think one, I recognize some of those things that were keep me from progressing as a person. Like just holding on to stuff. Now I realize people are gonna say what they want to say, whether they know the result or they know the true story behind it all or not. And if you don't take the time to get to know me and know my story or talk to me, and you're just gonna make those comments. Well, that's the way of the world, social media anyway. So, I can't control that. You know what I mean? So, why am I putting so much emphasis and putting that weight on me when it has nothing to do with me, really? It's just people's opinion. So I hadn't always dealt with it, right? You know, and I feel like there's been a time or two from, if you can look at it like a depressive state and things like that, that I didn't handle things well. I've also have buried myself into different aspects of my life, whether I went back to school, whether it be from work, whether it was from coaching, whatever, that I just kind of buried myself into that. And then I've also tried to reinvent myself and give back and talk about for other kids now, and adults and men and women as well. And that's helped because now I can talk about that. This past year, I've been able to talk a little bit more about that aspect of my life and what I've been going through, because it's become more of a reoccurring theme when people ask me questions. And I don't know if it's because of the more openness that people have to talking about that stuff, with Simone Biles saying what she had to say, Kevin Love saying what he had to say. Like, people are being more open about the pressures and the depression and things that comes with being an athlete, let alone a human being, but being a professional athlete at that, and all that kind of stuff. And so that makes you take inventory. Like, that sounds familiar. I remember that for me, you know.
So you were just recently given the National Football Foundation's top award, which was a 2023 Fred Russell Distinguished American Award. How was it for you to get that?
Man, I joked with him. I said, I really don't deserve that, because I feel like that's what people that have really done some inspiring things. But so I'll leave that there. But I mean, I tell you, it's humbling. I appreciate it, because one, I played over 1% in this world. Like, I've been a first round draft pick in National Football League, played professional sport, but I'm being recognized. I think a lot of has to do with that, but for what I've done since in the educational realm, and there's a lot of people, and you've had them. Every gentleman in this room has had somebody that has been instrumental in their life from an educator standpoint, and we forget that fact that these people, these educators, these teachers, these administrators are grinding every day for kids, and they go on to whatever. You know, some go on and be productive, some go on and make great decisions, some go on to be entrepreneurs and engineers and doctors and healthcare workers and firemen and all this kind of stuff. And educators have them all. From the age of 4 or 5 years old to 18 years old, and sometimes older. And we forget the work that these people put in on a daily basis so that we can grow up as young men and young ladies outside of those walls.
Yeah.
And if I can advocate for that and for what they do on every day, that's another thing that I want to be able to express whenever my time is done, working in education or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I see how hard these people work, how much they care for other people's kids.
Yeah.
Like seriously, how much people care for somebody else's kids. Sometimes in spite of their own circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, I got situations where we're helping them feed them when their parents are nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm fortunate just to have one parent that was around me all the time, you know?
Yeah.
And so I see stuff like that, man. And so for me to be able to get this award for something I don't feel like I deserve, because I'm just a vessel for them, you know.
It's humility, man.
Well, you know, maybe it goes back to what we were talking about, man. I was saying, you know, I always felt like I wanted to be qualified, so I was justified. And is this one of those things where am I qualified for this role? Am I just getting it because of what I have done as far as being a professional athlete now, an educator? Do I deserve it, or is it just because of those things, you know? And so, you know, I'm gracious, man, and it's a great opportunity, and it gets me in front of some young men from high school and college to speak to them. Yeah. Some of them will probably go beyond whatever and play professional. Yeah. Probably not. I'm looking at room, and it's a 1%, so that means one of them one of them might have an opportunity to play. But more often than not, most of y'all gonna be up here talking to another kid, talking about what you used to do as an athlete. So whatever that looks like for you.
All right. Look, folks, it's been my honor to interview you. Y'all help me welcome our inaugural Relate to Athlete speaker, Dr. Kevin T. Dyson. Dog, appreciate you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Sir.